Well, in my own city of Minneapolis, the management of the city reached out to the workers and said, if you all want to have a card check in order to get your union recognized, that is the process we will go by. I can list a number of employers who have voluntarily done card check, and it has not harmed these companies. In fact, as you pointed out, Congresswoman, there are a lot of American companies that have very good relationships with their workers that are humming along, making a profit right now. So there's no reason to believe that if we make the Employee Free Choice Act law, that would in any way undermine any productivity. Yeah, well, as I might point out, Congresswoman, and Mr. Speaker, the fact is that having a union creates labor peace. We don't have costly strikes, lockouts. We have labor peace. We make an agreement, and everybody sort of we have a refined, orderly way to resolve conflict. And as you pointed out, sometimes these conflicts are over a bargaining table, are tough struggles. Nobody's expecting to just give anything away, but there's an orderly way to resolve labor issues. Turnover, which is a definite killer for productivity, is reduced when you have a union in place. Unions tend to promote reliability. You have a place to go. You can go to your shop steward if there's something you think isn't right. And it provides a way for real stability on the job. Also, I think it's important to say that a lot of unions have training programs of their own, which shares the burden with the employer. So unions have been good for many employers and have been good for America. Union workers earn 30% more than non-union workers. And when it comes to African-American unionized people, they earn 56% more than non-union African-Americans. Women benefit from being in the union. Upwards of 40–50% of women who are unionized make that much more than women who are not. Pensions, medical benefits. It's good to have a union job. Everybody knows that. And unions have not contributed to economic demise of any community or our country. In fact, unions have brought labor peace. Unions have benefited our country in a great way. And I just might add, before I turn it back to the gentlelady from Maryland, Congresswoman, I'll never forget the image of Walter Reuther, the great UAW leader, and Martin Luther King walking down Woodward Avenue in Detroit. I'll never forget that when Martin Luther King went to his reward on April 4th, 1968, that he was at a union, he was standing up for garbage strikers, sanitation workers who were in a strike because they were paid poorly and were unsafe working conditions and were dealing with these issues. And it's important to remember that the union won that strike. And so unions have contributed to the life of America. Unions have done a service for our great country. And so I think it's important that we point that out as we talk about the Employee Free Choice Act. And I yield back. Well, I want to commend you, Congresswoman, for going down to North Carolina and standing with those workers. It's not easy. I've been on many a picket line myself. I've been on many a union drive because I believe in it, and I think it strengthens the working class. But you're right, there are subtle points of intimidation to prevent the union, but there's a lot of places in this country where there's not so subtle intimidation to prevent the union. There's outright intimidation. There are people fired for trying to organize a union. And even if you prove that it's an unfair labor practice that you were fired for organizing a union, generally, even if you win at the NLRB, what happens? Well, minor fine, maybe a posting up on a wall that says we were wrong for doing this. In fact, it's really not a real deterrent to some of the unfair labor practices that we've seen. And I think that having a union in place would definitely strengthen a worker's right to raise issues that are of concern to them at the workplace, as you point out. I hope the gentlelady doesn't mind me kind of taking a little turn to make just a few comments that I'd like to make. And I also want to thank you for holding it down. It was your idea that we do the Employee Free Choice Act today. It was your organization that brought this session about. And this is critically important that we do this subject because we do need to help the public understand that a strong workforce that's organized, unionized, gives voice not just only to unionized people but to the entire middle class. And so I do want to thank you for organizing this today. All I want to do is just take a little short detour for a moment and say that the Employee Free Choice Act, we often talk about card check, majority card check. Well, as you pointed out, if you get 30% of the employees to sign a card, you can get an election for a union now. That's the present law. And nothing about that will be stripped away by the Employee Free Choice Act. But it's also important to say that even if you get majority sign up and you get the union recognized, or you get 30%, which then provokes a union election and you get the union recognized that way, that's not the end of the Employee Free Choice Act. The Employee Free Choice Act recognizes the fact that even after union recognition comes, a lot of employers fight the contract, and you can have a union but no contract. And I'd love to hear if you have any stories about that, because it's important to talk about how workers have dealt with these things. But the Employee Free Choice Act requires a period in which there is a mediation on the contract, and then if that doesn't work, there's binding arbitration on the first contract, so that there will be a first contract. And after there's one contract, then history tells us that there'll be another one, but there will be a first contract under the Employee Free Choice Act. So it's not just card check, but it's getting that first contract at the bargaining table. So I will yield back to the gentlelady this time, because I just want to make sure that we frame what the bill says, what it doesn't say, and again invite the gentlelady, if she cares, to talk about this effort to get the first contract, which is so often a difficulty. Of course, I don't want to narrow what the gentlelady might comment on.